Hello everyone. Today we are going to study about the elasticity of demand. We have studied about what is the meaning of law of demand, and law of demand states that if a price of a commodity increases, quantity demanded will fall, and if price of commodity falls, quantity demand increases. So law of demand only indicates the direction of change in the quantity demanded in response to the change in price, whereas elasticity of demand states with how much or to what extent or to what proportion the quantity demand will change in response to the change in any of its determinants. So, the concept of elasticity says that if the price rises by 10%, what happens to demand? We know demand will fall. So, by more than 10% or by less than 10%. So, elasticity measures the extent to which the demand will change. So, elasticity of demand measures the extent to which quantity demanded of a commodity increases or decreases in response to the increase or decrease in any of its quantitative determinants. According to Dr. Marshall, the elasticity or responsiveness of demand in a market is great or small accordingly as the amount demanded increases much or little for a given fall in price and diminishes much or little for a given rise in price. So the elasticity of demand can be price elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, that is the elasticity in relation to the change of price of other goods and services. And we have income elasticity of demand and advertising elasticity of demand. So the elasticity can be classified in perfectly elastic, relatively elastic, unitarily elastic, relatively inelastic, and perfect inelastic. So what is price elasticity of demand? Price elasticity of demand is the measurement of percentage change in the demand due to percentage change in its own price of the commodity. So it is represented by EP, that is price elasticity of demand can be percentage or proportionate change in the quantity demanded divided by the percentage or proportionate change in the price. So EP is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in prices. So what is percentage change in quantity demanded? It is change in quantity divided by original quantity multiplied by 100, and percentage change in prices is equal to change in price divided by original price multiplied by 100. So the formula will come out to be delta Q divided by delta P multiplied by original price divided by original quantity, where delta stands for the change in price of commodity. So degree of price elasticity of demand, there are 5 cases of elasticity of demand, that is perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, unitarily elastic, relatively inelastic, and relatively elastic. So perfectly elastic demand says when a small change in the price of a product causes a major change in its demand, it is said to be perfectly elastic. So a small rise in price results in fall in demand to zero, while a small fall in price causes increase in demand to infinity. We can see this in this particular graph. And then we have perfectly inelastic demand. So perfectly inelastic demand is one in which the change in price causes no change in the quantity demanded. So we can see from the figure that the movement in price from O to P1 to OP2 and OP2 to OP3 does not show any change in the demand of the product. So perfectly inelastic demand is a theoretical concept and cannot be applied in practical situations. Then we have unitary elastic demand. When the proportionate change in demand produces the same change in the price of a product, demand is referred to as unitary elastic demand. So here the value of EP will be equal to 1. Then we have relatively elastic demand, which says demand when the proportionate change produced in demand is greater than the proportionate change in the price of a product. So here value will be greater than 1. So in this, the demand is more responsive to the change in price. Then we have relatively inelastic demand is one when the percentage change produced in demand is less than the percentage change in the price of the commodity. Like if a price of product increases by 30%, so the demand of the product decreases only by 10%, then in that particular case it will be called as relatively inelastic demand. So the numerical value ranges from 0 to 1, that is EP will be less than 1. So we can see over here the summary that perfectly elastic demand EP value is equal to infinite, perfectly inelastic demand EP is equal to 1, relatively elastic demand EP is greater than 1, relatively inelastic demand EP is less than 1, and unitary elastic demand EP is equal to 1. So the flatter the slope of demand curve, higher will be the elasticity. So these are the elasticities of various demand curve. This is very elastic demand curve. This is unit elastic demand curve, and this is very inelastic demand curve. This is perfectly inelastic demand curve. This is perfectly elastic demand curve. That is the value is equal to infinite. So the measurement of price elasticity of demand, there are four methods: total expenditure method, proportionate or percentage method, point elasticity of demand, and arc elasticity of demand. So total expenditure method or total outlay method measures the price elasticity of demand, and according to this method, elasticity of demand can be measured by considering the change in price and the subsequent change in the total quantity of goods purchased and the total amount of money spent on it. So total outlay or total expenditure is equal to price multiplied by the quantity demanded. Now there are three possibilities. The first possibility is the fall in price, which leads to an increase in demand, and the total expenditure increases, or with a rise in price, demand fall, and total expenditure also falls. In that case, elasticity of demand will be greater than 1, that is ET is greater than 1. The second case is if with a rise or fall in price, demand falls or rise, the total expenditure remains same, the demand will be unitary elastic, or ET is equal to 1. The next case is if with a fall in price the demand rises, the total expenditure also falls, and with a rise in price, that is the demand falls and total expenditure also rises, then the demand is said to be less elastic, or elasticity of demand is less than 1, or ET value is less than 1. So this is a schedule given over here. The price is given, the quantity is given, and we have calculated total expenditure, and based on that EP is written over here. So all the cases says like this: if there is a fall in price and total expenditure rises, or if there is fall in rise and total expenditure fall, it means whenever there is an inverse relationship between price and total expenditure, EP will be greater than 1. So from A to D, EP value is greater than 1. When there is no change, price falls, total expenditure remain unchanged, price rises, total expenditure remain unchanged. When there is no change, EP value will be equal to 1. From D to G, ET value is equal to 1. Then if the price falls, total expenditure also falls, and if the price rises, total expenditure also rises, then EP value will be less than 1. It means there is a same relationship between the price and the total expenditure, then EP value will be less than 1. So let us understand with the help of this example. Price is given 246, quantity is given 300, 150 and 100, and then we will calculate expenditure, that is price multiplied by the quantity, and it is unchanged, 600, 600, 600. So it is unchanged. So when the price is increasing from 2 to 4 to 6, but the expenditure remains same, it means there is no effect, then the value of E will be equal to 1. Now the prices are rising and the quantity is given, and we will calculate the expenditure. Now the prices is rising but the total expenditure is decreasing. So here E value will be less, greater than 1. And now here there is an inverse relationship between the price and the expenditure. Now here the prices are rising and expenditure is also rising. So there is a direct relationship between the price and expenditure. E value will be less than 1. So here price P1 is 2, Q1 is 10, P2 is 4 and Q2 is 5. So we have to calculate the expenditure, elasticity, sorry. So the price multiplied by quantity, the expenditure is there, and 4 multiplied by 5, 20. Both values are same, so there is no effect on, no change in expenditure. So with the increase in price, there is no effect on expenditure. E value will be equal to 1. Then we have percentage or proportionate method. So price elasticity of demand is the ratio of proportionate change in the quantity demand to the proportionate change in the price, and this method is also known as percentage method, flux method, ratio method, arithmetic method, and the formula is percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by percentage change in the price of goods. So we can see over here change in price quantity divided by original quantity multiplied by 100, change in price multiplied by original price multiplied by 100. So the formula will come out to be delta Q upon delta P multiplied by P by Q. So delta P is the change in price of the commodity, and P is the original price, and Q is the original quantity. So here one example is given. So calculate the price elasticity of demand if the price fell by 10%, causing the demand to rise from 800 to 850 units. So the percentage change in price is given, that is 10%. Now we have to calculate the percentage change in the quantity demanded, that is delta Q upon Q multiplied by 100. So the change in price was 850, original price was 800 divided by original price multiplied by 100. So the value will come out to be 6.25. So the formula is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. So we have calculated percentage change in quantity demanded, and the percentage change in price is given multiplied by 100. So the value will come out to be 0.60, that is less than unity. So next method, next sum is for an when the price of commodity was rupees 10 per unit, its demand in the market was 50 units per day. When the price of commodity fell to rupees 8, the demand rose to 60 units per day. So the price elasticity will be percentage change in the quantity divided by percentage change in the price. So percentage change in the quantity will be Q2 minus Q1 divided by Q1 multiplied by 100, and percentage change in price will be P2 minus P1 divided by P1, that is the original price, multiplied by 100. So Q2, that is change in quantity, is 100. Original quantity was 50 divided by original quantity, that is 50 multiplied by 100. And the P2, that is the change in price, was 8, and original price was 10, and divided by original price, that is 10. So the value will come out to be minus 1. So the price elasticity of demand is always negative because we know it is a downward sloping graph, and there is an inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demand. Then we have point method or geometric method. So it measures the price elasticity of demand of different points on demand curve, and the formula is lower segment of demand curve divided by upper segment of the demand curve. So for example, if I have to calculate EP at Q, Q, that is lower segment of demand curve, that is QP divided by QP divided by RQ, and it will be equal to 1. If I have to calculate EP at A, lower segment is AP divided by RA, it will be greater than 1. If I have to calculate at B point, that is BP, lower segment of demand curve divided by upper segment of demand curve, that is RB, it will be less than 1. At R point, Rp divided by 0, the value will be infinite, and at point P, it will be 0 divided by Rp, the value will be 0. Then we have arc elasticity of demand. So arc elasticity is a measure of the average responsiveness to price change exhibited by a demand curve over some finite stretch of curve. So the area between P and M on the demand curve, this is the demand curve, and this area P and M is an arc which measures the elasticity of the over a certain range of price and the quantity demanded. So next we have income elasticity of demand. So what is income elasticity of demand? It is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded of a commodity due to the change in consumer income, and other things remains the same. We can also say that it is the percentage change in the quantity demanded due to the certain percentage change in the consumer income. So mathematically it is percentage change in the quantity demanded divided by percentage change in income, that is delta Q divided by delta Y multiplied by Y divided by Q. Delta Q is the change in quantity, delta Y is the change in consumer income, delta Q is the original quantity demanded, and delta Y is the original consumer income. So let us understand with the help of example. So suppose initial income was of a person was 2000 rupees and quantity demanded by him was 20 units. So when his income increases to 300,000, quantity demanded by him also increases to 40 units. So find out the income elasticity. So the formula, we have studied the formula. So we will put the values. So the quantity income has been increased by 1000. Original income was 2000 rupees and the quantity demanded has been increased by 20 units, and originally quantity was 20 units. So we will put the values: change in quantity 20 units, original quantity 20 units. Original income was, earlier income was 2000 rupees and change in income was 1000 rupees. So the answer will come out to be 2%. So the increase of rupees 1000 in income, that is 1% in income, leads to the rise in 2% of the quantity demanded. So types of income elasticity of demand, it is categorized in three categories. Positive income elasticity of demand, that is E value is greater than 0. Then we have negative income elasticity of demand when the value of E is less than 0. And we have zero income elasticity where the value of E is equal to 0. So positive income elasticity is again divided into three parts, that is income elasticity greater than unity, E value greater than 1, income elasticity equal to 1, value of E equals to 1, and income elasticity less than unity, value of E less than 1. So positive income elasticity of demand when EY value is greater than 0, it means if the quantity demand for a commodity increases with the rise in income of a consumer and vice versa, it is said to be positive income elasticity. And it has three categories: income elasticity greater than unity, income elasticity equal to unity, and income elasticity less than unity. So income elasticity greater than unity means if a percentage change in quantity demanded for a commodity is greater than the percentage change in the income of a consumer. When the consumer income rises by, for example, 3% and the demand rises by 7%, then it is a case of income elasticity greater than unity. You can see in this particular graph. Then we have income elasticity equal to unity, when the percentage change in quantity demand for a commodity is equal to the percentage change in the income of the consumer. So when a consumer income rises by 5% and the demand rises by 5%, it is the case of income elasticity equal to unity. Then income elasticity less than unity if the percentage change in quantity demanded for a commodity is less than the percentage change in the income of the consumer. For example, when the consumer income rises by 5% and the demand rises only by 3%, then it is the case of income elasticity less than unity. And then we have negative income elasticity of demand. So if the quantity demand for a commodity decreases with a rise in the income of the consumer and vice versa, it is the case of negative income elasticity of demand. So we can see in this particular graph, the quantity demanded and the consumer income is measured along x-axis and y-axis respectively. This is consumer income and this is the quantity demand for the inferior goods. So when consumer income rises from OY to OY1, the quantity demand for inferior goods falls to QD to OQ to OQ1 and vice versa. The next is zero income elasticity. That means EY is equal to 0. So if the quantity demand for a commodity remain constant with a rise or fall in income of the consumer, then it is said to be zero income elasticity. It is seen in the case of basic necessary goods. Now we have cross elasticity of demand. So cross elasticity of demand is a measure of responsiveness of a demand for a goods towards the change in price of related goods. When the consumption behavior being related, the change in price of related goods leads to the change in demand of other goods, and these are of two types: substitute good and complementary goods. So in case of two goods, the goods which are substitute for each other like tea and coffee, the cross price elasticity will be positive. That is, if the price of coffee increases, then the demand for tea will increase. While in the case of goods which are complementary in nature like pen and ink, the cross elasticity will be negative. That is, demand for ink will decrease if the prices of pen increases or vice versa. So it can be expressed, that is, the cross elasticity of demand is equal to proportionate change in the quantity demand of Y divided by the proportionate change in the price of X. So the definition of cross elasticity is it is a proportionate change in the quantity demanded of X good demanded resulted from a relative change in the price of related good Y. Cross elasticity of demand is a measure of responsiveness of purchase of Y to the change in price of X. It is of two types, I've told you earlier, for substitute goods and complementary goods. So in case the two goods are substitute for each other, cross elasticity will be positive, and if the goods are complementary in nature, the cross elasticity will be negative. Types of cross elasticity of demand: positive, negative and zero. Positive cross elasticity: when the goods are substitute of each other, then the cross elasticity is positive. It means when an increase in price of Y will lead to increase in demand of X. And we can see in this particular figure, the quantity has been measured on OX axis and price on OY axis. At price OY of Y commodity, demand of X commodity is OM, and if the price of Y commodity increases to OP1, then demand of X commodity increases to OM. Thus the cross elasticity of demand is positive. Then we have negative cross elasticity of demand. So in case of complementary goods, cross elasticity of demand is negative. So we can see in the figure the quantity has been measured on OX axis and the price has been measured on OY axis. So when the price of commodity increases from OP to OP1, the quantity demand falls from OM to OM. So the cross elasticity of demand is negative in this particular case. Zero elasticity of demand is when two goods are not related to each other. For example, increase in price of car does not affect the demand of cloth. So in this particular case, cross elasticity of demand will be zero. Then we have advertising or promotional elasticity of demand. So advertising elasticity of demand refers to the proportionate change in demand of a commodity due to the proportionate change in the advertising expenses. We can see over here the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in the spending on advertising. Here is an example of cross elasticity of substitute. Commodity X and Y, that is tea and coffee, is given and the change prices are given before change and after change and the quantity before change and after change. So the price earlier was 20 rupees per kg and the price of tea and price of coffee was 30 rupees per kg and the quantity demanded was 400 kg for tea and for coffee 500 kg. And after the change in prices, that is for tea the price was 20 only, but there was an increase in price of coffee from 30 to 40. So the quantity change has been decreased from 300, has been reduced to 300 kg, and it was quantity for tea has been increased from 400 to 500. So delta Q is how much? Delta Q is, that is change in quantity is, earlier 500 units were there, now 400, 500 minus 400 divided by change in price, that is 40 minus 30, multiplied by original price divided by original quantity demanded. So original price was 30 and original price of Y commodity and original quantity of X commodity, and change in quantity of X commodity. So earlier it was 400 and now the quantity has been changed to 500. So 500 minus 400, it will be 100. 100 divided by 10 multiplied by 30 divided by 400. So the value, we will compute the values for this. In this manner, we will compute the cross elasticities. Now, the importance of elasticity of demand. The first importance is it is helpful to a monopolistic in price fixing or in fixing the price. So the price of a commodity depends upon demand for and supply of that particular commodity. But the demand is governed by the elasticity of demand and supply too is governed by the elasticity of supply. Therefore, the price of a commodity depends upon the elasticity of demand and supply. So the monopolistic would keep low price for commodities having elastic demand so that they can earn maximum profit by taking maximum sale. We would like to fix high price for commodities having inelastic demand. The second is helpful to the government in formulating taxation policies. So elasticity of demand help government in taxation policies. Like government should have a clear idea about the elasticity of demand for products which are being taxed. For example, the government can levy a tax on sugar and collect the amount from the factories. The idea may be to reduce the profit of factories, but the burden of tax will be passed on by factory owners to the consumers. So this can be done as the factory owners can raise the price of sugar by full amount of tax and force the consumer to bear the taxes. Generally, taxes imposed on goods with inelastic demand cannot be passed on by the producers to the consumers, while taxes imposed on goods with inelastic demand can be easily passed on to the consumers. The next is helpful in determining the reward for factors of production. So if a demand for labor on a particular industry is relatively inelastic, it will be easier for the trade union to get the wages raised. The next is helpful in determination of terms of trades. Like the concept is useful in understanding many types of prices such as rate of exchange, that is the rate in which the currency unit of one country is exchanged for the exchange in the currency unit of another country. The terms of trade, that is the rate at which export change for import, etc. In all these cases, the elasticity of demand in one country is compared with that of the other countries. So next is helpful in determining the rate of exchange. The concept of elasticity of demand will also help government in fixing an appropriate foreign rate of exchange for its domestic currency in relation to shift to the currencies of other countries. The next is helpful in declaring certain industries as public utilities. So industries whose products have inelastic demand should be declared public utilities. Industries producing essential products like water, electricity, gas, transportation, etc. should be taken over by government. Industries whose products have elastic demand should be left for private sectors. So the concept of elasticity of demand also enables government to decide as to what particular industry should be declared as public utilities and being consequently owned and operated by the state. So that's the concept of elasticity of demand. Thank you so much.